Oh, everything okay with the microphone?
Yeah, I dropped my mic and I managed to catch it as it was falling.
That's huge.
Oh.
Well done.
Oh, I'm awake now. Okay.
What's good? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I am the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a grown man who never read the Percy Jackson series before, but I'm reading them now in a quest to see if this is a YA series that the world has been sleeping on. And I'm not on this quest alone. I am joined by a comedian from Seattle, someone I've done improv with in the past, and hopefully I will do so again in the future. It's Alison Lührs. Alison, how's it going?
Hello, hi, howdy, etc. Dude, it's good to see you. Hear you. Be amongst you. Yeah.
Yes, it's good to see and hear you as well digitally, but hopefully this will happen in person at some time.
I hope so. I have a very fond memory of appearing on Potterless, mildly inebriated and hollering in front of a whole lot of people. It was one of the live shows. It was so much fun.
Yes. It was the first ever live show for Potterless. First ever time I did a podcast live show, which was wild.
Oh my gosh.
It was also the first and last time that I shot a confetti cannon on stage.
I remember that too.
Because I was then made aware of how troublesome they are to clean up, even though, let the record show, I asked for approval before shooting it off.
I distantly remember the look of mild disapproval from the stage manager in the far back, just watching his face kind of fall along with the confetti.
On the bright side, hardwood flooring, easy to mop up, not a carpet. I would never have tried to even make that happen.
You are not a confetti vandal.
No, and now I just shoot off money guns when I do live shows because it's way easier to clean up. Just scoop, 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 put them back in the little plastic gun, bing, bang, boom. Everything's good.
Dang, now I know where to go for free money. Holy cow.
Oh yeah, it's certainly real
Super
dollar bills
real,
that I shoot off on
dollars,
stage.
American currency. Wow, you're so generous.
You know, it's just a way that I can give back to the community. But we are here to discuss chapters 14 and 15 of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Before we get into it, though, what is your history with the Percy Jackson books? When did you read them? Where does your fandom lie?
Oh, yeah. So when I was in college, I worked at the university library. So it was my job to put books back in the stacks. So that meant that I got a pretty good look at what people were reading and what new books just came in. And it was right after I think the original main series had ended. And I am a person who loves to read and loves to read on the job. So every now and then I would sneakily try and skim through as quickly as possible The Lightning Thief and the books afterwards. So my fandom is thin, but I feel the spirit.
Perfect. And that's all we need. And you've read the chapters in prep, so we're ready to rock.
Yes.
So where we last left our hero, Percy specifically, he was jumping out of the St. Louis Arch. So, just your regular old Tuesday in Percy world. Chapter 14 is called I Become a Known Fugitive, which continues the amazing trend in this book,
title.
which is that, yes, all the chapter titles are just so fantastic.
Snappy.
Rick doesn't miss. They're all so enticing.
He's also not wrong. He does become a fugitive in this chapter. I appreciate an author that tells the truth in their titles.
For sure. And this chapter was surprising in that this one was only about 7 pages long, which is very short.
Yeah, I kind of thought that you were joshing me when I got the chapter to read because I finished it super fast and I was like, oh, it's that kind of YA novel. All right. Cool. I can zip through that real fast.
So yeah, we're doing 14 and 15 today. But yes, 14, super short, but it's okay. Made me feel like I was reading a Dan Brown novel with a very short chapters. I read, I think, what's the one where they're in the Louvre? I forgot. The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
I read the Da Vinci Code. I feel like, how many chapters in the book? 156? There's so many.
There's so many. And all of them are 3 pages long. And they all end with a stinger at the end. It's meant to be consumed as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah, I feel like that book was written for Vine.
The first Vine novel.
Very short.
Yeah, absolutely.
So chapter 14 begins with a wonderful quote from narrator Percy where he says, "I'd love to tell you I had some deep revelation on the way down, that I came to terms with my own mortality, laughed in the face of death, etc." And I do like that etc. is spelled out because I took Latin in high school and etc. is a Latin term of phrase, which is partially why I use it all the time. It's also very fun to say.
I also took a Latin class back in the day.
Nice.
I don't remember
That's
any
very
of
fun.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember little bits here and there. I took 3 years of it, so it's there in the brain.
Do you use it to like flex on people? Like, do you every now and then just go, that's a Latin phrase?
I mention it in my podcasts all the time, and at first it started genuinely because I was doing Harry Potter stuff, and a bunch of the spells are just butchered Latin. Yeah. So I would mention, oh yeah, this word is similar to this in Latin, blah, blah, blah. And then people started to get, I don't want to say angry, but people would say, wow, Mike keeps mentioning all the time that he took Latin in high school. So then I made it a point to say it in every episode. And I've continued that into the newest Olympian.
How do you feel as a person who took Latin classes now doing a podcast about Greek mythology?
It makes me sad that we didn't do as much history. It was strictly a Latin language course. We got a little bit into the history because when you learn the stuff, they tell you stories as examples of how you learn the sentences and all that, but it wasn't in-depth enough. So now I feel like I'm making up for lost time, where I am now getting those same kind of stories back by reading this. But I appreciate et cetera getting spelled out, because though I don't in public say, oh, this is a Latin word, when people say et cetera, it makes me very upset.
Oh, et cetera is a curse. Yeah.
Right. It's like when people say espresso instead of espresso, I know that can rub coffee lovers the wrong way. When people say et cetera, it makes me very upset, especially because it's etc dot. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
It is an abbreviation of et cetera, which is and related things.
Yeah, I feel your passion. Yes, absolutely. I'm just going to sit back and let you take this from here. Yeah.
So Percy continues, the truth, my only thought was, which, yeah, I mean, that feels like a relatable thought to have when you're jumping out of the St. Louis Arch.
Yeah, I appreciate the use of onomatopoeia there. I write things sometimes, professionally and for funsies. And anytime that you get to just like use key smashing to get across an emotion, I think that's a really excellent use of your craft.
Yeah, let's get more ASDF in.
Yeah, exactly.
And more of that into books. So Percy then crashes into the river, and the impact of the fall doesn't hurt. Bubbles seem to ease him into a soft landing, and he has a couple of realizations. First, he's not dead, and two, he's not wet, which I thought was very interesting.
He's dusty, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine what that sensation would be like, and it just sounds disorienting and confusing.
Certainly, because he says that he can even see that the water extinguished the fire on his shirt, but his shirt isn't wet. Right. So it's a very interesting visual.
This also bears the question, like, what happens if he gets in a hot tub or takes a bath? Like, is it only like natural water sources that do this?
Yes, he's stinky forever. Can he never shower again?
Baby wipes. Just lots and lots of baby wipes. Yeah.
So he's in the Mississippi River and there is trash floating around.
This part was gross. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely gross. Right? At first I was like, oh, cool, he's in a river. And then as he described it, I go, oh, he's in a bayou. This is not a river.
Yeah, no, he's in like a Noah hazard site. He's at like some sort of like super site that needs to be cleaned up.
For sure. So there's trash floating around. One article of trash is a cigarette lighter, and he grabs it and then is able to light it. So not only is Percy defying the laws of water-based physics, but everything he touches is as well.
Pretty
I'm
dope.
very intrigued to see if we learn how this power works, or if it's just gonna be, water magic, and then we don't really learn, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I like that there's a clear like structure to this magic system. Like, it's obvious that like whatever he touches is the thing that does it. And I'm assuming he's been able to take a shower at least once in his life. So it must be like only like natural sources under like a specific set of rules. It was pretty dope. I was very intrigued by this power set.
Yes. So he goes on, he grabs a burger wrapper, and then when he grabs it, it turns dry. So not only does stuff stay dry, but things become dry. And then he's able to light it on fire.
Yeah, that's what you do with garbage.
It was very interesting, a very fun way to learn about his powers, and I thought it was cool that it was more than just him being saved by the water, but also clearly his water powers are very strong, but also confusing, and I'm sure he'll have to come to grips with them as the story continues.
Yeah, learning through doing is how people learn the most from their experiences, and I hope someday to be able to light garbage on fire underwater. That sounds really useful.
It's an aspiration that we can all look forward to.
Hashtag goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he also can breathe underwater, which is very impressive and feels far more useful than lighting trash underwater, but who's to say maybe lighting trash underwater will become very helpful as he fights off various monsters. He also gets an internal mom voice instinct to say thanks. He thanks his dad, and his voice sounds deeper. So I guess the water also makes him cooler.
Puberty River. There's a lot of testosterone in the Mississippi, I guess.
He feels ashamed that he was saved by Poseidon and that the mortals in the arch are doomed. He sees Riptide then, and his internal voice tells him to go get the sword and that his father believes in him. So I thought, oh, is this Sally? And then a ghostly figure resembling his mom approaches. She says that she is just a messenger, but she says that Percy's mom's fate isn't as hopeless as thought. She says to go to the beach in Santa Monica because it is Poseidon's will. And the messenger says that he must do it before descending into the underworld, but then the messenger has to go because the river is too foul.
Yeah.
And this is just lots of shots have been thrown at the Mississippi River.
It really is. Also, like, this one sentence was kind of my favorite thing in the whole chapter. Like, before you descend into the underworld, you must go to Santa Monica, which kind of implies that somewhere else in LA is the underworld, which is really hilarious. I like that little nugget quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the recording studio is. So far, all I know is that there is a recording studio that is the entrance to the underworld, but I'm not sure what part of town it's in. I would imagine it would have to be in downtown Los Angeles because I've driven there once and it was the worst driving experience of my life. Just people running red lights, people making illegal turns.
There's nothing and everything at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrifying. I've never wanted to get out of a city faster than the 1.5 days I spent in Los Angeles with a car.
Absolutely. The experience of being in a car in Los Angeles is Tartarus. That's it. That is where the Titans are kept, inside of their cars, and all of them are on 405 at once.
Now, before the messenger leaves, the messenger warns to not trust, quote, the gifts.
The gifts.
This little quote, don't know if this is going to be huge or innocuous. I have not read past these chapters. It feels important, and it has shaken all of my predictions to their core. I have now rewrote everything because once the messenger said this, I closed my book and thought about it. The only gifts Percy has gotten are from Chiron and Luke. Can't imagine it being Chiron. It would be wild, especially because the gift that Chiron gave Percy is Riptide. And to not trust Riptide...
Oh, he's a straight shooter. Yeah, no, Riptide is very trustable. Like, we've gone back and we've saved it, we've retrieved it. Like, no, that's real deal sword.
And the messenger told Percy to grab it. So if that gift is one that we're not supposed to trust, that doesn't make any sense. The only other gift, at least that I can think of, would be the winged shoes from Luke.
From Luke?
Yes.
So we cannot trust those shoes.
I don't think we can trust the shoes, even though they have come in handy, which now makes me think, can we not trust Luke? Because in part of the prophecy, it said someone who you thought was a friend actually isn't. And I was thinking maybe that's Grover, maybe that's Annabeth. Now I'm thinking maybe it's Luke. And that makes me very sad because I liked Luke. He seemed so nice.
Luke's kind of a homie, and those shoes are super handy. In my mind, they're just like a really like reliable pair of Adidas. They're nothing super fancy. They're sporty, but not flashy. They get you where you want to go. And to know that I can't trust those shoes makes me wonder, what shoes can I trust?
I like that everyone has a different take on what the shoes look like because I imagine them looking like these shoes up here.
Well, those are good shoes. For those of you at home, they are...
Oh, I put them on Instagram. They have seen them.
Oh, okay, good. I was ready. Yeah.
So I was imagining teal Jordan 5s. A lot of people said they were just imagining Chuck Taylor Converse high tops, but now reliable Adidas, I'm imagining Stan Smiths or the shell-toed ones that Run DMC wore. That's also very fun. I was
thinking the pastel ones. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Everyone's got a different take on it. I love it. There's no wrong answer. But yes, now we can't trust the shoes, and I don't know if we could trust Luke.
Yeah.
So that's making me rethink everything I thought before.
Yeah, no, these aren't Adidas anymore. These are untrustworthy shoes. Wait, okay, what are some untrustworthy shoes?
Oh, Vibrams. Those are the shoes that have the toes in them. First off, gross, but also they lost a lawsuit over that.
Really?
Because when those shoes first came out, they said that it was good for your feet. It said that it was supposed to be more natural for your feet, but then people looked into it and they're not. They were fine shoes. And one of my buddies really liked them as lifting shoes because they're very flat and that's good for lifting shoes. So he didn't care. But if you bought those shoes, you were allowed to get a $50 rebate on them because they cost like $100.
They're expensive.
But all of their branding was around these shoes being good for your feet. And then they actually weren't. They were just like regular shoes. Not that they're bad for your feet, but they weren't necessarily beneficial like they were advertised to be. So he just got 50 free bucks and then got to keep wearing these shoes that he liked to lift.
This is now a shoe truther podcast. In my mind, an untrustworthy shoe is like Sperry Boater shoes.
Ooh, yeah, the red flag of shoes.
Yeah. No, you cannot trust whoever is wearing those. They're up to something.
Agreed. Very good answer. Very good answer. So Percy is sad that the messenger is gone, but loved that the messenger called him Brave One. Aww. So even though this wasn't his mom, he feels like maybe it was sent by my mom. Maybe it's some sort of mom-based magic. So he's feeling good about it.
There's some mom vibes in there. You can't trust the gifts, but you can trust your mama.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Percy says, quote, I came ashore next to a floating McDonald's. And this was my question. Did something happen that the McDonald's is in the water? Because he just says it and then that's it? I was very confused.
I had nothing but questions about the floating McDonald's. Is it a barge? Was it previously not floating and is now just like in the water? Did someone shove it off of the arch as well? Does the golden arches have some sort of connection to the larger arch we just jumped off of? Questions abound.
Was a word missing from the very legal PDF that we both read for these chapters? Maybe. Maybe the word sign was missing. Who's to say? So as Percy comes ashore, there are a bunch of emergency vehicles all around near the arch. There's a little girl who sees Percy walk out of the river and be completely dry. But when she tries to tell her mom about this, her mom hits her with back-to-back, "That's nice, dear," quotes, which I think is very funny and very good for middle grade literature, just to make the parents the oblivious ones. You know, it's the classic, oh, Santa Claus is only there for the people who believe in him kind of thing.
It's a moment that super did not need to be in there because we could have spent this time answering the question of the floating McDonald's. But you know, it served a purpose to show off, whoa, isn't this just funky? Look at this aberrant human coming out of the water.
And I love dunking on ignorant parents.
Yeah, ignorant parents are the worst, and they're easy marks.
Yeah. Percy then overhears a news anchor mention survivors, so he's now put at ease for his previous guilt about leaving the mortals up in the arch. He then avoids the police and reporters, and Percy is bear-hugged, and the narrator says goat-hugged, which is pretty great, by Grover.
I noted that. That was sweet.
It was very, very fun. And Grover, when he gives this goat hug, says, "We thought you went to Hades the hard way," which is
brutal.
So funny.
Yeah, damn.
What a great little quote. Annabeth tries to be mad, but she honestly just looks relieved, just happy that Percy's okay. Then there's a woman on a stretcher being wheeled away, trying to tell the paramedics what happened. They don't believe her, and then they say the medication is kicking in. And this is the second time that medication has taken a hit from author Rick here. And the last time it was about ADHD medication. And a lot of folks with ADHD reached out to me to say that the discourse around medication is pretty tricky. And Rick's commentary in these earlier chapters is more that teachers used to use medication as just a way to kind of push away ADHD kids. So that could have been the commentary Rick was going for. Whereas medication now, from what people told me, it's a mix. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. Sometimes it's a matter of it works, but it gives you side effects, so it's situational. Basically, what I learned from people reaching out to me is that it's different for everybody, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But with this line here, it did feel like Rick has some sort of history with medication being misused, and he seems to be critiquing it intentionally. I would love to find out necessarily what the inspiration behind that was. I know his son has ADHD, so maybe his son had issues with that in the past. Maybe he was misprescribed, whatever it was. So I think it's pretty interesting, and it makes me feel like the previous comment that Annabeth said was certainly intentional.
That's a great breakdown. And yeah, thanks to everyone who messaged in. I really appreciate hearing those perspectives. For me, when I read the passage about, hey, the medication's kicking in, I took it to mean pain meds, that she was getting kind of loopy and like, oh, you're not seeing what you're seeing because the whatever is kicking in and you're starting to go to sleep or whatever, so you're not in pain anymore. But agreed, anytime that someone brings up medication in fiction, it's really good to be self-aware of what's the context, what is the author trying to say by introducing that, and what does it say about ourselves, the way that we take away meaning from that sentence as well.
For sure. These two medication lines make me think that Rick is at least people using medication as a way to just not deal with people, as opposed to trying to understand what someone with ADHD is going through, how they would best learn in a teacher situation, or in this case, actually listen to someone who is telling you the truth, and then you just go, oh, this person's, as you said, being loopy.
I think that's the more important takeaway here, like in this situation, is that like he's being super dismissive of her telling the truth, which, hey, that's pretty relevant to most people who've had to deal with the medical system. But yeah, like the idea of like, oh no, like you're just falling asleep, like you're going out of it because of the pain meds, you're not actually seeing. But I do also like the moment of her just like pointing and going, it was you. Like that's very goofy and over the top. So, bummer, dismissive moment, but I'm also happy we got it. It was him!
Yes. Oh, a great visual, a great visual. So she then insists she's telling the truth. As you said, points at Percy, says he was the boy who jumped out. Percy then grabs Annabeth and Grover, and they hide in the crowd. They leave, and then Percy relays the whole story to them. They pass a news reporter who is saying that Percy fits the description and is the primary suspect. They hop on the Amtrak and head to Denver, and that's the end of chapter 14, as we now get into chapter 15, which also has a wonderful title.
Truly.
A god buys us cheeseburgers.
And it's true.
Promise delivered. Cheeseburgers do get ordered, and a god paid for them.
I'm glad we can trust something in life.
I think the only potential lie of this is I don't know if you can qualify what the god did as buying, because it feels like he stole the cheeseburger. It
was more intimidating. A god intimidated a stranger into giving him cheeseburgers, and I guess we ate them. I think is probably more accurate.
A god strong-armed us some cheeseburgers.
Yeah, there we
go. So it's the next afternoon. It is June 14th, and the train rolls into Denver. The solstice is 7 days away. So we've got 1 week. Annabeth wants to contact Chiron, and they go into an empty self-service car wash, and they crouch down. Narrator Percy says, quote, any cop worth his donuts would figure we were up to no good. Fantastic turn of phrase. Love this.
It's also a horrible place to hide. Those things are like, there's nowhere to crouch behind. It's just open.
Yep.
Like, there's no walls.
Certainly. Annabeth says that it costs 75 cents to use one of the sprayers. Grover says that they could use a spray bottle, but, quote, the connection isn't as good and my arm gets tired of pumping. Percy asks, and I'm glad he did because I was confused. Percy asks, what is happening? What is going on?
Oh, buckle up. It's super goofy.
Grover says they are IMing, and Percy says instant messaging, and Grover says
iris messaging.
Exactly. Iris messaging.
Okay. I'm going to hit pause for a moment because, oh my gosh, 14 years ago when I read this for the first time, I remember reading that sentence and being furious at how over the top goofy it was. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And then fast forward 14 years to me reading the same sentence again. And it still made me verbally go, are you kidding me? So kudos, Rick Riordan.
Yeah, it is super goofy, almost in an endearing way of...
Exactly.
I know that the fandom has nicknamed Rick Riordan Uncle Rick, and this feels like the most Uncle Rick type thing where he is in dad mode thinking, how do I get the hip thing that everyone's doing in 2005, instant messaging? How do I get that?
Iris messaging. Yep. I love how earnest it is. I love that it's a moment of just like, nope, we're all just going to go with this. And that's okay.
Because I imagine Rick writing this and going, yeah, this is cool. And it's
See what I did with I-emming?
So cute.
I hope he sat for a while and was just like, what does the I... Who can the I stand for? Looking through the Wikipedia list of every minor goddess and going... I know who.
I've got it.
It's rainbows.
Yes. If you didn't think it was goofy enough, it is because Iris is the rainbow goddess. This is how it works. The rainbow goddess carries messages for the gods. Yep. If you make a rainbow and then offer a drachma, you can throw it in and say where you want to speak and then huzzah, Iris messaging.
That's what rainbows are for. Yes, exactly. I love too that like there's so many other ways to make a rainbow. Like if this is a common thing, why don't you just carry around like a prism or a small crystal or something? But no, I like the splashy version. That's much more exciting.
It's very fun. So it opens up a portal, and then there is Luke, who now I was not happy to see because I am in not trusting Luke mode, and this conversation does him no favors because he is sketchy as hell in this conversation. So he's excited to see Percy and Annabeth. Annabeth is, of course, nervous to talk to Luke because she's got the hots for him. She stammers that they were trying for Chiron, and Luke says he's at the cabins as they're having trouble with the campers. And he then asks if Grover is okay. Grover pops in to say hi. Grover asks what issues are going on, but then a Lincoln Continental rolls in blasting maximum hip hop, which
I wanted to ask you about this specific sentence as well,
Okay.
because the phrase maximum hip hop makes me want to ask you, what is maximum hip hop?
I would say maximum hip hop to me, I'm very biased, but I think A Tribe Called Quest is maximum
Yes.
hip hop.
That's pretty good.
I'm very biased in that one way that we have crossed paths is that I did improvised hip hop in Seattle with a group called A Tribe Called Yes, which is perfect.
It was a great show.
Great show, great group of human beings.
Yes.
And I think that they are just the epitome of hip hop. I love all their songs. Incredible stuff. No misses.
My mind first went to Tech 9.
Oh.
Like, in terms of like, what is just like the most in your face hip hop that I could think of off the top of my head. But I agree. Like, it's either like really classic or just like really like, yeah, no, like this is happening and you can't move away from it right now. Deal with it.
Right. Maximum hip hop can have a lot of different answers. Minimum
True.
hip hop does have a definite answer.
Yes,
and that
it
would
does.
be, and it's funny because the car is a Lincoln Continental. Minimum hip hop would be the Sugar Hill Gang because they are credited as being the first rap group, but they're not.
No.
They are just the first rap group that a record label threw money at and said, here, why don't you just steal a bunch of rap bars that people have been doing in disco clubs for the past 5 years across New York City and pretend they're your own, and then you will get a bunch of money. Just kidding. We will actually get a bunch of money because the contracts are terrible.
Now I'm imagining that this Lincoln Continental drove up playing minimum hip hop, which is just one single song that lasts like 17 minutes and it's not ending.
I mean, yeah, 17 minutes, in case anyone isn't catching the reference. That's just Rapper's Delight from Sugar Hill Gang.
Yes.
It's just that song where they go, I got a Lincoln Continental. Like, if anyone wants to see the full version of this, Netflix has a great documentary about hip hop. It's called Hip Hop Evolution. There's a couple seasons. Watch the episode about why Sugar Hill Gang are the biggest frauds ever. And then if anyone ever says that the first rap song ever was Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, you can say, no, 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 and give them a precise answer like I did.
This podcast is now about both shoe drama and hating on the Sugar Hill Gang.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's what the public wants.
Today's episode brought to you by every other hip hop group that's ever existed. So Grover and Annabeth then leave to address the noise issue that is being presented by this blasting of maximum hip hop. And Percy talks to Luke. Apparently, Chiron had to break up a fight. So the word of the Zeus Poseidon feud got out, and Luke blames whoever summoned the Hellhound. And my theory here is that Luke is the one who summoned the Hellhound, because what we've known, or at least what has been said, I think by Chiron, is that whoever summoned the Hellhound had to have been someone in the camp. So if I believe that Luke is the bad guy, he could be the person that summoned the Hellhound. Also very convenient for Luke to try to act like, oh, the person who summoned the Hellhound is definitely someone else and not me.
Right.
Luke, your friend you should trust.
Classic loser move. You know, those who smelt it dealt it. Right?
Exactly. So not trusting Luke here. He says people are now taking sides. So the Aphrodite, Apollo, and Ares cabins are backing Poseidon, and Athena is backing Zeus. So feels like an interesting divide right now. Percy is miffed that Clarice's cabin is backing Poseidon because he does not want to be on the same team as her, which I think is great. I love that he does not like his bully.
Yeah.
Luke then asks what Percy's status is, and Luke says that Chiron will be sad that he missed them. This just felt...
It's shady. We want to know where you are.
Yeah, Chiron can't come to the phone right now. He's really busy. I don't know, man. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it.
Is Chiron okay? You know?
That's the thing. I don't know if Chiron is in trouble or if Luke is just trying to take this call and not let Chiron know that it's happening. And then it would be the classic thing where the call would end and then Chiron would happen to walk by and say, oh, who was that? And Luke could say, oh, wrong number, you know?
Right.
Wrong rainbow. So Percy tells Luke everything that's going on. It feels great to kind of unload. I don't enjoy this because I don't like, if Luke is the bad guy, I don't like him unloading all of the details to him.
No.
But I do like that Percy feels good about doing this. He feels like he's at home. He misses Camp Half-Blood. He misses some of his friends. So I at least appreciate that Percy's in a good headspace. But because I was not trusting Luke, I was very uncomfortable reading this passage.
Yeah. It felt a little bit like snooping over someone else's shoulder.
Yeah.
You can't really trust people who decide to gossip when someone's not there.
Mm-hmm. So the washer beeps to alert that this is the final minute of the spray gun. Luke says he wishes he could help, but he tells Percy that he thinks it has to be Hades, which I also find suspicious that Luke is going out of his way to say, hey, I definitely think that someone else is behind this. Obviously, he's not going to say that he's behind it, but for him to take the time to put forth his suspicions of someone makes me not trust Luke. But also, now I'm certain it's not Hades.
And let's conveniently blame the god that usually gets blamed for the bad stuff. Oh, that seems, convenient. Like, it's such an obvious guy to frame.
Right. I already didn't think it was Hades when Chiron was explaining why he thinks it's Hades, because it just felt too obvious. Now I'm not thinking it's Hades because we've got someone trying to throw Hades under the bus. So I really don't think it's him.
Everyone's wearing Sperry's.
So when Percy brings up that gods can't take each other's magical items, Luke says that's true, but he thinks that the Helm of Darkness is the only way to take the bolt undetected. And this is where I thought, I don't know, if it is Luke, son of Hermes, craftiness, quickness. Luke says you'd have to be invisible, which has a bit of an awkward silence afterwards because the only other person we know to be able to turn invisible is Annabeth.
Right.
Luke, after this pause, says, I didn't mean Annabeth. And he reassures that Annabeth is like a little sister to him. And narrator Percy thinks, I wonder how Annabeth would take that. Which is
probably
very funny.
Not great. Exactly. And it's just the kind of thing, if you're already framing someone else, he's just on a roll of just like, what about your friend who you trust?
Right.
Wouldn't that be a betrayal?
Exactly. Feels like too many suspicions being thrown about, and the answer for why Chiron can't come to the rainbow right now didn't feel very legitimate.
Chiron needs to keep a closer eye on his instant message rainbow phone, obviously.
Exactly.
Or put a code on there.
Parental controls, right? AIM had those, didn't they?
Facial recognition via rainbow. Yeah.
Luke then asks about the shoes, which I just wrote in my notes, because I don't trust the shoes. Percy says, yeah, they've been helpful. Then this is where I started to not trust the shoes. Did he give Percy the shoes, thinking that he would use them and fly in the sky, which would be in hopes that Zeus would attack him because of the whole up in the air thing, Zeus is going to attack you thing? Is that why he gave him flying shoes? Because part of me thought, if we're not supposed to trust these shoes, they do seem to be very helpful. So it would be weird if Luke is trying to make Percy's mission unsuccessful. Why would he give him this helpful thing?
Yeah.
But was it to try to draw the ire of Zeus?
He's trying to sabotage him in some other way.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
So Percy, as I said, he just lies that they've been super helpful. And they kind of have been. I mean, they helped Grover against Medusa, but Percy just kind of keeps it brief, doesn't want to tell Luke, I can't use your shoes. Thanks for nothing, Luke.
Keep your Sperry's, yeah.
Yes, if Luke does turn out to be evil, these shoes, he did say that they were basketball shoes. They would just have to be a really subpar brand of basketball shoes.
Yeah.
So Luke tells Percy to tell Grover to hang in there and no one will turn into a tree if he just, and then gets cut off. And this is where now it's made very clear, it was Grover. It is certainly super clear we had inclinations of it before, but now it is confirmed 100%. So Annabeth and Grover return, asking, what did Luke have to say? And Percy just lies and says, not much, which is fine, I guess.
Not much, some really shady garbage that I'm not going to repeat to you. Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything crucial that Annabeth and Grover needed to hear.
But it kind of goes against the instinct of just like, if I get a shady-ass phone call and hang up on it, the first thing I usually do is turn to my friends and go, I got a shady-ass phone call.
Yeah.
Here's all the deets.
I think the problem is that Percy didn't find it shady. And I think that is supposed to be driven home by the narration notes that he felt like he was at home. It felt good to talk to Luke. It felt good to see him. Yeah. So I think Percy was just blinded by all of that.
I do appreciate that we as the audience get to feel smart, though, because we can see, hey, that's a messed up phone call. Yeah, exactly.
Look at us, grown adults, outsmarting this middle grade book.
I, a genius, am smarter than this book written many years ago.
Hello and welcome to this episode's lightning brief. First, I want to say that I did look up what the floating McDonald's was, and as Alison posited, it is a barge. It's a boat that is a McDonald's. So a regular floating McDonald's, not a McDonald's that is supposed to be on the ground and now happens to be floating. In a bad case, it's an intentionally floating McDonald's. Second, just a reminder that there is no episode of The Newest Olympian next Monday. We're taking off for Thanksgiving. We'll be back on the first Monday in December, but if you look at the Potterless feed on November 29th, you might find something there for you. Speaking of Thanksgiving, I want to give thanks to some of the folks who are now supporting the show on Patreon. First, shout out to our newest Ultra God patron, FinnTZ. And next, I want to thank a bunch of folks who upgraded to the Ultra God status, but I didn't see the notifications, so I should have been saying your names in multiple episodes. Apologies, but huge shout out to Ribbon Monstrosity, Samantha McNamara, Tate Sasson, Emil Oskar Thomason, Roxas1912, and Rafaela. Shout out to Diana Kent, who is our newest God tier patron. And now we can finally finish up the backlog. This is our final chunk of demigod patrons, and now this update portion of the lightning brief will be what it is supposed to be, which is just thanking all of the folks who have joined since the last episode has been posted. Thanks to everyone who has supported the show, and thank you for making the wonderful problem where it took 12 episodes to get through a backlog. So shout out to Lion of Stone, Claire Anna Grand, Regulus Black Supremacy, Adit Mukherjee, Lindsay Duffs, Brooks Anthony, Yoshi, Lindsay Riddle, Nicole Clark, Nick Chaston, Jade Torres, Mallory Gibson, Catherine McGill, Victoria Gosselin, Bianca Santos, Carly Perkins, John's Movies, Alyssa Pearn, Kelly Long, Brace Symphonia, Samantha, Plastic Blue Hairbrush, Brianna H. Betts, Jasmine Williams, Tara Bates, Shay, Maggie Ritter, Lindsay Black, Tea with Ghosts, Jeanette Runka, Ted Lasso's Mustache, and someone who made their name the Shrieking Shaq, but Shaq spelled S-H-A-Q like Shaquille O'Neal, and that's fantastic. If you want to be like one of these patrons and get access to a whole bunch of wonderful bonus content, whether that is bonus episodes, or director's commentary, or access to my notes, or exclusive monthly live streams, or in the future, stickers and pins once I get those made, you can get access to these by supporting the show at thenewestolympian.com. And speaking of thanks, I'd like to thank Multitude for having us as a part of the collective. If you are looking for some other podcasts to listen to, Multitude has a bunch. One of those is Join the Party. Join the Party is a collaborative storytelling and role-playing podcast that is powered by the rules of Dungeons & Dragons. In the first campaign, they explored fantasy, adventure, intrigue, magic, and drama. In this new story, it's more of a superhero vibe. They are dealing with science, superpowers, a better future, and the responsibility to help others. Both seasons are fantastic. A lot of Multitudes get in the mix. I even have some cameo roles in season 1. They also go above and beyond because each month they sit down for the after party where they break down the game, they answer your questions about how to play Dungeons & Dragons and other similar games at home. So if you've ever wanted to understand the world of D&D and how D&D can be used to tell stories and have fun with friends, Join the Party's here for you. So you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Join the Party or going to their website, jointhepartypod.com. And before we go, you'll hear words from some sponsors who are making it feasible for me to podcast as a full-time job. Some of these ads will be read by me, others won't, and those that aren't read by me will be inserted locally. So if you live in France, don't be surprised if you hear a French ad. And also, if you ever hear a weird sponsor for one of those, please send me an email. I try my best to category block so that no sketchy sponsors come through, but every now and then they slip through the cracks, and I'm very thankful to the listeners who have reached out and let me know, because then we make sure they are never on the show again. And even if it's the ones that I'm reading for, sometimes people have let me know that a sponsor that I have worked with is maybe not the best, and then we cancel our relationship with them. So in any case, if there's ever a weird sponsor or a sponsor that does some shady stuff and I'm unaware, I try my best to vet. Please send an email to thenewestolympian@gmail.com, and I will always try to be on top of these things. So now we'll turn it over to the sponsors, and once that's over, we will get back to this episode of The Newest Olympian. So they head to a diner for dinner. Made me very excited that they're going to a diner.
Love
I'm a New
diners.
Jersey born and raised boy. Diners are a huge part of our culture. I don't know what the diner scene is like in Denver. Maybe it's good. I mean, the Denver omelet is very good, and that feels like diner food.
New Jersey doesn't get to lay claim on the diner. The diner is an American concept. Like, greasy spoons exist all over the place. I will challenge you on this.
I think I am just skewed by, you know what? There's some really good diners up in Seattle. Luna
yeah.
Cafe is really solid. So there are good diners.
Beth's, before Beth's closed down. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. And North Star is good too.
Yeah.
Post improv show, North Star. Okay. Yes.
North Star rules.
There are good diners elsewhere.
Thank you.
Hopefully they are also good in Denver.
I hope so too.
New Jersey being the garden state never made sense to me. I always felt like New Jersey should have been the diner state.
Yeah.
So they want to order, but the waitress calls their bluff because they are children in a diner. So the waitress checks, which as a former server, good job. She says, do you guys have money? Before taking their order. And then a dude on a giant motorcycle pulls up. Flames on the motorcycle, shotguns on the motorcycle, and leather seats that look like they are made of Caucasian human skin.
That phrasing
Gross.
is very specific.
Did not like that. Did not like that at all. Super gross.
Super yucky. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, good that it's white people's skin. Like, it could have been a whole lot worse.
It could have been like 20 times more racist. Yeah. You know, Ares is a piece of trash, warmongering jerk, but at least he's not racist.
Yay!
So, yay, we did it.
Whee! The bar is the floor.
Inclusivity.
So this dude has a red muscle shirt, black jeans, a knife, and wraparound shades.
Hell yeah.
Super
Just
intense.
Weird Oakleys, yes.
So at first I thought, is this Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator from Terminator 2? Because that is exactly what the description sounded like. Percy then thinks that the face looks familiar, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yes.
This dude comes in, tells the waitress that he'll pay for the food, slides into the booth, and then asks the waitress, are you still here? Which is such a great, tough guy person, whatever thing to
It's
do.
snappy,
It's a
yeah.
great way to dismiss someone. Are you still here? Always hits really hard.
Yes, it does.
So this muscle Bob Buff Pants points her away and then turns and says, so you're old seaweed, or I guess, so you're old seaweed's kid. And Percy replies, what's it to you? Which is a great sassy retort.
Sassy retort to a mean nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Seaweed is a mean nickname here.
Yes, it's a slur in the ocean.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, how dare you?
Oh my God, you use the S slur? Ugh.
So then it hits Percy. This person looks like Clarice. And then I, at the same time as narrator Percy, realize, oh, this is Ares. So already my prediction before this, I thought maybe if it's not Hades, because that felt too obvious, maybe it's Ares that's behind all of this. But now, thankfully, with Luke being suspicious beforehand, I had already kind of passed Ares off to the side. Now that we've met Ares, pretty sure Ares is not behind it, because we'll see, but it would be weird for him to be this directly involved with talking to Percy and then also trying to be a cunning behind-the-scenes mastermind of a harebrained scheme.
He's a straightforward dude.
Yes.
You know, the guy goes out of his way to, you know, organically source his leather for his motorcycle. I don't think that he's going to be the type to, you know, try and be sneaky or like use subterfuge. Like, no, he's just going to kill people and make a motorcycle seat out of them. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to be the least subtle person ever.
Yeah.
So he takes off his glasses, and where eyes are supposed to be, it's just fire, which I thought was very cool.
Pretty dope.
And I don't know much about Ares the god outside of playing Hades the video game, but there's also an eye thing going on with Ares. In that one, in the art, he's got like war paint covering his eyes. So I don't know if this is some sort of recurring theme. Maybe I will learn more about this when I talk with a mythological correspondent in an episode in between books 1 and 2, when I talk to Dr. Moya McTeer. But
She's wonderful. I love Moya.
oh yeah, you know Moya. I forgot.
I was on Exolore. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
she's so good.
She's been on the show, and she's going to be our Greek mythological correspondent, where basically in between books, we're going to talk about all of the things that got mentioned and all of the Greek gods and goddesses that we met, any sort of Greek reference that happened, because I think it's fun for me to not necessarily know all of them, so I can try to guess what happens next. But in between books, like, I want to know everything I missed. So I'm going to talk to Dr. Moya. It's going to be super fun.
Oh my gosh, y'all are in for such a treat. She's amazing. Oh,
She's
Lucky
a
you.
delight. So, yes, takes off the glasses, has fire eyes, pretty dope. And then he says that he heard Percy broke Clarice's spear. Percy says she was asking for it, and Ares says, probably. That's cool. So,
What a good dad.
I like that he at least has respect for Percy's fighting game.
exactly. Yeah. He's like, all right, my kid can fight for herself. All right.
Ares clarifies that he's not here for that, but instead he has a proposition. He pays off the waitress with drachmas, and the waitress says this isn't money, and then he implicitly threatens her with his knife by cleaning his fingernails with it. So I don't know what she's going to do with these drachmas, but if you were just going to threaten her, maybe don't give away godlike currency? Doesn't feel like a smart move by Ares here.
You know, it kind of feels like he could have skipped the whole threat because he paid her, but I like that he reinforced just paying her by also just happening to also threaten her at the same time.
Right, but this would be like if I was traveling internationally internationally, if I'm in London and I buy some Indian food and then I just give them $20 and they go, this is not a pound, and I then, I don't know, crack my knuckles and say, get out of here.
Yeah, you crack your knuckles and go, I didn't feel like converting it at the counter when I came through Heathrow. Oh, all right, thank you. That's fine. And then just moving on.
So anyway, Ares wants Percy to retrieve his shield at an abandoned water park in town. He was there with his girlfriend and they were interrupted. Percy says, why don't you go back there and get it yourself? A great question. But when Percy asks this, the fire in his eye sockets glows hotter. And Ares says, why don't I turn you into a prairie dog and run you over with my Harley? Because I don't feel like it. God is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson. Will you prove yourself a Will you prove yourself a coward? And then he leans forward. Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into so your daddy can protect you.
That was an incredible performance. I felt the wraparound sunglasses. That was amazing.
Thank you. I'm just trying to channel if I was the type of person to wear muscle shirts.
Yeah, I was there. You really transported me. I was in the moment.
So Percy has had a desire to fight Ares this entire time, but now he really wants to punch Ares. But he knows that one, this is exactly what Ares wants, and two, Percy is only this mad because of Ares' power. Mm-hmm. So he holds off, which I think is really nice. I like that Percy has the wherewithal to recognize what's going on and stop himself before acting on quick instincts. Good stuff.
Also, he's a teenager, and I imagine that Ares is a lot larger and more adult and, millennia old. Like, that's not a fight you win, bud.
Right. Probably a smart business decision to also not go ahead with this fight.
I appreciate that Ares just shows up and just gives him a fetch quest. That's very straightforward. There's no, fluffing this up or anything like that. Like, no, you are going to go and kill 15 rats for me. And then I'll give you some drachmas. That's it. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, this did feel very much like Rick deciding, well, the book's got to be a little longer, right? Let's have a side quest.
Let's be real about the situation. This was a very delicate way of trying to not explicitly say what Ares and Aphrodite were up to when that shield was lost. That was very artful.
Indeed. Percy says that they are already on a quest, so they're not interested. Ares then makes Percy see horrible things, blood, smoke, and corpses on the battlefield. And Ares says that he knows all about the quest, and he keeps calling Percy punk the whole time, which is fantastic and incredibly on brand. He says that Zeus sent out his best to look for the bolt when it was stolen. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and him, everyone with an A, I guess. I guess he could have said not the best, but the A team. Ha ha ha. So he says that they couldn't sniff it out, so if they can't, Percy's hopeless. But he wants to give Percy the benefit of the doubt since Ares and Poseidon go way back. He reveals that he told Poseidon about his suspicions of Hades, citing that framing someone to start a war is the oldest trick in the book. And I thought that's pretty funny because that was my entire theory of why I thought it was Ares when I was making a big old guess into the sky. So I think it's pretty funny that Ares kind of dunked on me without knowing by saying, yeah, that's the easiest thing that someone else could have thought of.
It's also really great, bright neon letters that go back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Like, hey, that is the oldest trick in the book.
Indeed. So Ares tries to sweeten things by saying that if they help him, he'll give them a ride west. And Percy says, no thanks.
I don't want to sit on that motorcycle. No.
Ares then pivots to saying that, okay, fine, I'll tell you something about your mom if you help out. And Percy instantly drops any sort of tough guy facade and goes, my mom? And then Ares grins. So he knows that he's got him. And I don't know if you've read The Stand by Stephen King, but Ares was really giving me the Darkman vibes, which is the villain from that book.
I have not read it, no.
But he's very much a boot-wearing evil guy with fire-type eyes. It felt very reminiscent of that, deep voice, etc.
The world needs more evil dudes with boots and fire eyes.
Ares says that the park is a mile west and to look for the Tunnel of Love ride. And then Percy asks, what interrupted your date? Something scare you off? Which, Percy, don't taunt this man.
Do not taunt him.
This man has shotguns on his motorcycle.
You will lose this fight. He is so much bigger and older than you. Come on.
And also, God. The narrator says, cool, Ares bared his teeth. And Percy continues, but I'd seen this threatening look before on Clarice. There was something false about it, almost like he was nervous. which I found interesting. Ares says that Percy is lucky that it was he who came along because the other gods don't have the patience for lip. Percy feels like he must have fainted because suddenly Ares is just gone. And Grover is very scared, saying that no good can come from this.
You think?
Yeah. Percy feels the anger then drain out of him. And he wonders if the mom thing was even real. Is he actually going to tell me anything, or is he just trying to say this to get me? He recognizes Ares' power is cranking up passions so much that your ability to think gets clouded. And Percy wants to just ignore it, but Annabeth says you can't. You can't ignore this quest because ignoring the gods is just asking for bad fortune.
It's true. This fetch quest is not optional. This is part of the golden path, bud.
Mandatory. Percy asks why does he need help, and Annabeth says maybe it requires a brain, which I thought is
brutal.
Fantastic.
Brutal. Sick. Excellent work.
Percy brings up that Ares seems scared of the park and then asks what it could be. And hindsight, very funny foreshadowing here. Annabeth and Grover look nervous, and Annabeth says, we're just going to have to find out. So they go, they arrive, it's sunset, and the place is called Waterland, which is a pretty blah name. But the only remaining letters on the neon sign are Wat and then R-A-D. Water Rad would have been a dope name for a water theme park. Are you kidding me? If it was just Water Rad, hell yeah.
Although Wat Rad is inherently funny. That's objectively very funny.
It's really good. So there's an odd exchange where Percy tries to imply that Ares' girlfriend is probably ugly, and Annabeth says that he should be more respectful, and also that his girlfriend is temperamental. And Grover adds that you don't want to insult her looks. Percy asks who it is, and then Grover dreamily says, oh, it's Aphrodite. And Percy states that he thought she was married to someone else already. And Grover says, yes, it's Hephaestus. And then he starts to say, what's your point? Oh, was this insinuation that Hephaestus would beat up Grover? Is that what he was going for here?
I think so. It's kind of unclear. And I mean, mythologically, that relationship is complicated and casual at the same time. And so I'm not really sure that like Hephaestus really would give a crap, given that this has been going on for a long time. But you know, I think that was the implication that Grover's about to get a whooping.
Mm-hmm. So our team is trying to figure out how to get past the gate. Grover shouts Maya and uses the shoes to fly over. And narrator Percy says, quote, he flew over the fence, did an unintended somersault in midair, then stumbled to a landing on the opposite side. He dusted off his jeans as if he'd planned the whole thing. You guys coming? Which is great. I love that. I love
trustworthy shoes.
Yeah.
Don't trust the shoes. Yeah.
But I like Grover trying to act like he planned it. Big thing that I love to do.
Very slick.
Oh, yeah. Annabeth and Percy climb over, holding down the barbed wire for each other, which I think is very romantic of them.
Very kind, yes.
Mm-hmm. They walk past some attractions, Ankle Biter Island, head over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit? The most 2005 dad joke that Uncle Rick could have made, because I feel like that movie, which I loved to watch in 2005, I feel like that was very much a movie that parents like to make fun of for existing because they didn't get why it was so funny.
Just by name alone. They never actually watched it. And people at home, you also don't need to watch this movie.
Yeah, it is very much the early 2000s. I wonder how it's aged.
I don't want to know.
I don't know. I mean, the ostrich thing is still very good. I feel like there's at least scenes that will have aged well.
Yeah, there's the goofy parts. In the sequence of goofy names, Ankle Biter Island is the one that stuck out to me of just like, is this a joke? I'm not really sure. I'm
not sure either, but who's to say? I mean, head over Wedgie isn't really a pun. It's just a funny word.
The Wedgie is from the slides, I guess. Yeah.
I guess, but it doesn't rhyme with heels.
No, it's just head over Wedgie. But you know what? We accept this and we move on. This is all part of the world building. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. They pass some souvenir stands that are stocked with fresh clothes, and Annabeth says, clothes, fresh clothes. Percy hesitates and says, you can't just steal them. And Annabeth says, watch me. And then the narrator says, she snatched an entire row of stuff off the racks and disappeared into the changing room. A few minutes later, she came out in Waterland flower print shorts, a big red Waterland t-shirt, and commemorative Waterland surf shoes. A Waterland backpack was slung over her shoulder, obviously stuffed with more goodies. And I know we're recording this on November 3rd, but if anyone needs a Halloween costume idea for next year, wearing all Waterland stuff would be great. And I also really want those floral shorts quite badly.
They sound awesome. I really hope someone's done cosplay of this at some point because this sounds absolutely adorable.
Somebody has to have done it. It's so good. So Percy and Grover shrug it off and they follow suit, steal some clothes. Percy then brings up Ares and Aphrodite having a thing together, and Annabeth says, yeah, that's 3,000-year-old gossip, don't you already know? Which is fantastic.
Brutal.
Percy asks, well, what about Hephaestus? And Annabeth says that he was crippled. And is that the right term? That felt like it wasn't the right term.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been the right term.
Yeah, I was surprised that this word would be in there. People can reach out if this is an okay term, but it really didn't feel like it. And again, another episode I want to do is talk with someone about how the physical disabilities like Chiron's wheelchair is mentioned.
Yeah, speaking with someone from the disabled community would probably be best on this one.
Yeah, but crippled, that didn't feel right to me.
Yeah, it felt gross.
So says this happened to him when he was a baby, when he was thrown off Olympus by Zeus. And then Annabeth continues and says, so he isn't exactly handsome. And that felt also gross because you can still be handsome. Like, that's not a prerequisite. I didn't like this.
Handsomeness is not necessarily connected to a disability. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, super strange. So Annabeth says that he's clever with his hands, but Aphrodite isn't into brains and talent. And I guess I'll learn about the backstory, but why did they even get married? I'm confused. I don't understand.
I think we can take it up with whoever wrote this myth several thousand years ago. What a strange pairing, you know? Not necessarily my OTP, but also let's break this down a little bit. If Hephaestus is good with his hands, I think that can also imply some things about her relationship.
Yeah, you know.
So Aphrodite, come on, girl. What's up with that?
So Percy asks if Hephaestus knows. Annabeth says, yeah, quote, he caught them together once. I mean, literally caught them in a golden net and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. And this is why they had to go to an abandoned water park to hook up, because wanted to try to keep it secret.
In my mind, this plays out less of just like I've been so wrong, my wife is cheating on me, and more of like almost like a prank YouTube situation of just like, I'm going to catch my wife making love with this dude I've hated for 3,000 years. All right. Shut up, guys. Watch this. I got you again.
I'm down. I mean, the gods seem like the worst people on earth, and prank YouTubers, certainly in the top 10 worst people.
Absolutely top 10 worst people on earth of all time. Yes.
And joking worst people. There are not literally. There are certainly 10 worst people.
Oh, wow. I love that we have to put that caveat in there. Yes. Yeah.
Someone will email me, be like, haven't you heard of dictators before?
Did you know there are people who murder people? You just met a fictional character with skin for a motorcycle. Explain this.
So they approach the Tunnel of Love, and the sign reads, quote, thrill ride, oh love. This is not your parents' Tunnel of Love, which... That's a great pitch. I'm going on that ride if that's in a theme park.
I know. Is it scarier? Is it sexier? What's going on here?
I don't know, but I'm in. So Grover instantly sees a swan boat in the ride with a shield in it. And Percy thinks this is too easy. Spoiler alert, it is. So there's nearby statues of Cupid. And on one of them, Annabeth sees the Greek letter Eta, E-T-A. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that one right. That letter is carved into it. And Eta I knew was H. So I thought, okay, Hephaestus, is it too easy that this is a trap by Hephaestus? Is this maybe Hermes? Or are they going to have to fight the Hydra? These were, I just was racking my brain of what's every H Greek thing.
Keep cutting off Cupid heads and 2 more grow in its place.
Man, that would be
actually
terrifying.
That sounds really scary. That's
super
just a
duper
baby
scary
with a million baby heads. That's awful.
Oh no,
I don't like that.
Moving on. Percy asks Grover if he smells any monsters. Grover says, I don't smell anything. But then Percy double checks, nothing like in the arch and you didn't smell the echidna nothing, or really nothing. And Grover looks hurt. So I feel bad that Percy took this shot.
Yeah.
And Grover says, I told you that was underground. Percy then apologizes, which is nice. And then he says, okay, I'm going down there. And Grover says that he will go with him, but he doesn't sound enthusiastic. So Percy feels like he's trying to make up for what happened in St. Louis. Very sweet of Grover. I love Grover.
Grover's great.
So great.
We stand Grover.
We do stand Grover. Percy decides no. Grover should stay up top with the flying shoes. He's the Red Baron, after all, who I now know is a German pilot from World War I, but Snoopy is better. Previous episode I said, the Red Baron, Snoopy, and probably some historical figure too, I think, but mainly Snoopy.
I had a sense the way that you said that meant that you learned very recently that there was an actual person, and I love the environmental storytelling of you learning this hashtag Wikipedia fact.
Yes, I learned while checking over the edit because in the episode I said, don't email me about this. And I thought maybe I should Wikipedia it. And there still was only one person. Only one person did. So thank you to everyone for listening and not emailing me about it. Percy asks Annabeth to go with him. And she says, no, because it would be embarrassing to go into a tunnel of love with you. And Percy asks, who is going to see you? Which is a great comeback.
It's very true. Very funny and true at the same time.
Really good. Another funny thing is narrator Percy thinks to himself, girls make everything complicated. And then Annabeth reluctantly joins and then mutters, boys always mess things up. Fantastic. They're
really
great.
Cute.
Whether they stay friends or become more, I love them together as a pair. Just a match made in Olympus. So it's basically a tunnel that goes into a big empty pool that you could skateboard in as described by narrator Percy. And then there's the boat in the bottom.
I'm going to imagine that since Hephaestus is our prank YouTuber, that he was just like doing like some cool skateboard tricks in there and was like, I have a really cool plan on what to do with this sweet pool later.
So they get to the boat. The shield is on one of the seats, and then there is a woman's silk scarf next to it. Percy starts to wonder why they would do this. Then he looks around and it dawns on him, oh, it's surrounded by mirrors. Quote, while Ares and Aphrodite were smooching with each other, they could look at their favorite people, themselves.
Which is so brutal, yeah.
Fire, flames. Percy picks up the scarf. It smells nice, and he feels inclined to rub it against his cheek, but Annabeth stops him. I was very thankful because no good could have come from that. No good at all.
No. We asked earlier, like, why would you be embarrassed? Who would see you go in? And in this moment, only one or two people would see you rub this scarf on your face. And that's bad enough. Don't debase yourself like that.
So Annabeth says, quote, just get the shield, seaweed brain, and let's get out of here. Annabeth, right. She's on task. I like this. So he goes to grab the shield, and it sets off a tripwire. Of course. They see another Etta, and Annabeth realizes, oh no, this is a trap. The Cupids that were all surrounding the top of the pool shoot arrows, but not at them. They shoot them all across to make a big metal net.
No.
And once I saw a metal net, I realized, okay, definitely Hephaestus. We just learned about a golden net. He's back.
He's just been doing the same thing for centuries.
He's just got the one
It's his
trope.
one prank. He's just the net guy.
Hey guys, welcome to Golden Net prank number 718. It's your boy Hephaestus. Make sure you like and subscribe and click the bell notification so you know when these crappy YouTube videos are live.
Meanwhile, his housemate's like, you got me again.
So the Cupids' heads pop open with video cameras, lights rise around the pool, and a loudspeaker bellows that they will be live to Olympus in 1 minute. Terrifying. I don't like this at all.
Very embarrassing. Reinforces our theory, but very embarrassing.
Yes. So Hephaestus made the trap to try and catch Ares and Aphrodite. It makes sense. But then, wasn't expecting this. Metal spiders come out from behind the mirrors.
Yucky. Ugh.
Regular spiders, terrifying enough. Metal spiders?
No, thank you.
The worst.
Yeah.
Percy has never seen Annabeth this scared. And they climb into the boat. They are kicking spiders away. Spiders try to spin thread to tie them down. Percy thinks, and then he notes that there's got to be water somewhere. He sees the control room for the ride, and he tells Grover to go. Grover gets in the booth. He's frantically hitting all of the buttons. Very smart decision from Grover. I like this. Just
Button
touch
mashing.
them all.
It gets stuff done.
Right? One of them's got to be the on button. He pushes them all but nothing, but he does do a sweet combo. But then Percy closes his eyes and he just thinks about water. This is the first time he's really intentionally tried to channel his power. And he feels that same tug in his gut. And water explodes from the pipes.
Such a cool moment. I loved this part.
It's so fantastic. And he has now become Supreme Lord of the Tunnel of Love.
Yes.
Previously, Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Shout out to the fine folks who made me cross stitches, where I said a cross stitch of that in your bathroom would be very cute. And multiple people sent me those. It's
That's
so cute
awesome.
and so endearing. I did not ask for people to send them to me, but they did. And that is so nice of them.
Cool.
But yes, now he is Supreme Lord of the Tunnel of Love. Water rushes out. It wrecks the spiders. And Percy and Annabeth thankfully are okay in the boat. I'm imagining that this is an extension of Percy's powers, that the boat didn't capsize.
Yeah.
Because the way it's described, it feels like the water rushes in so hard, but I feel like it's just water power becomes boat power.
And it's also kind of described that he uses the water to kind of steer the boat a little bit, which is like that he's subconsciously doing that is so cool. I loved this moment.
It makes me hope that at some point they go to a beach, because I bet Percy is the world's best surfer. Grover. He has to just be incredible at it.
Oh, he's the champion of the boogie board.
Oh, yes.
Best watch out when that kid gets on a boogie board.
Boogie board, skim board, all of the boards.
Oh,
he's dominating. Body surfing, he's got it all.
Yes.
So Percy has control over the boat. Like you said, he steers it to shoot off through the entrance tunnel, which is not covered by the net. And narrator Percy says, quote, "If the ride had been in working order, we would have sailed off a ramp between the Golden Gates of Love and splashed down safely in the exit pool." This ride sounds dope.
Sounds rad. Yeah,
Absolutely,
I want to go on this.
love this.
The answer to is it scary or is it sexy is neither. It's tight. It's fun.
It's awesome. Narrator Percy continues, "There was a problem. The Gates of Love were chained. 2 boats that had been washed out of the tunnel before us were now piled against the barricade, one submerged and the other cracked in half. So Percy tells Annabeth to unfasten her seatbelt. The plan is to jump when the boat hits the gate and then land on the shield." Sure.
Sure, that's physics. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work, right?
It's a YA book, baby. Anything goes.
So Percy starts to say "on my mark," and Annabeth says "no, on my mark," because she's better at physics.
I trust her geometry. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Then loud crack noise, and narrator Percy says, quote, "Annabeth was right. If we had jumped when I thought we should have, we would have crashed into the gates. She got us maximum lift." So we got maximum hip hop, we've got maximum lift.
Yeah.
But because this lift is maximum, it is too much. They are headed for some asphalt, but Grover flies in with a saving catch, which is fantastic.
Everybody gets to do a little piece to help make them save the day. I love that everyone had their own special role to get us out of this fetch quest okay.
Teamwork makes the dream work. However, the momentum of them falling is too strong, so they still crash, but not as intensely. Grover lands with his head perfectly in a photo board where, you stick your head through and then you can take pictures. Love the visual.
Very funny. I wrote down it was Nunu, the friendly whale.
Oh, thank you.
It was a friendly whale, yeah.
That's really good. I hope that there is some Nunu, the friendly whale fan art out there.
I hope so. What kind of whale is it? I'm hoping, beluga, maybe.
Gotta be a beluga, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
I'm definitely not saying that because I only know of beluga and blue whale. I certainly know more than 2 types of whale. Or no, humpback whale, right? Killer whale? I know 4 types of whales. I'm amazing. I'm a marine biologist, baby.
My partner was a fisheries major who studied marine biology for a long time. And my favorite thing that I've taken away from that is that those large, really awesome big animals are known as charismatic megafauna.
That's the coolest band name I've ever heard.
Isn't that
charismatic
dope?
Megafauna?
Charismatic megafauna. That's any sort of large animal, usually mammals that people just love. Pandas and tigers and whales. They're all charismatic megafauna.
That's the greatest. Thank you so much for sharing this information with me.
You're so welcome.
Oh, how kind of you.
Hey, you know what, Shubes? You're a charismatic megafauna.
Thank you. I am only 6 feet tall, though. So the Cupids are now all turned to look at the team, and Percy yells, "Show's over. Thank you. Good night." Love this. An entertainer made for the stage.
He was ready. He was
always
born
performing. Yes, he was born for this.
He is never off.
So good. So all of the Cupids shut down. Megaphone, camera gear, all that is shut down. And narrator Percy then says, "I wondered if Olympus had gone to a commercial break or if our ratings had been any good." Love it.
Natural performer. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Ready
wants
for
that
it.
feedback.
Percy is absolutely fuming because he hates being teased and tricked. And now both of those things have happened to him. Bullies did it to him often. Ares just reminds him of his bullies. Ares just did it to him. So Percy then puts the shield on his back and says, "We need to have a little talk with Ares." And then the CSI Miami plays in the background. And that's the end of chapter 15. And that's also the end of this episode of The Newest Olympian. Allison, thank you so much for joining along and discussing this chapter with me.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. I'm going to make sure I wear non-suspect shoes. I'm going to watch out for some charismatic megafauna. I learned so much. Thank you. This was a blast.
So many wonderful things. This was a true delight. If people want to see you doing stuff, whether it's improv in Seattle or otherwise, where can they do so? Where can they find you?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is at Alison the Person. You can usually find me making bad jokes about television and sharing really cute animal gifs. So if you like those, great news.
Yes. And also great tweets about hiking and backpacking, which makes me miss all of the hiking I used to do in Seattle.
Next time you're on this side of the mountains, let's go run around in the wild.
As long as the world gets better at, getting vaccinated, I should be there in April for a live show for Potterless. Yes. And I will certainly do everything in my power to do a 2-week residency of whatever improv shows I can, shotprov, etc., maximizing my Seattle improv while I'm in town. So yes, hopefully that will happen.
Yay, good.
But Alison, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, I'll Percy you later. Improv comedy.
Keep the laugh going. Keep the laugh going. No, it starts.
now I'm an evil villain.
It's like kind of evil, yeah.
That has turned a dad joke into my signature sign off of my podcast. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you want to learn more about the show, such as what chapters we're covering in future episodes, you can go to thenewestolympian.com. If you want to support the show, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You'll get a bunch of bonus content for supporting us on Patreon. And if you want to find us on social media, we're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And also we are at reddit.com/r/the Newest Olympian. Speaking of that Patreon, I want to give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Lauda Bartova, Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Emma Cooey, Vicky Garcia, Ellie Hoskovchova, Veronica Bartova, Natanya Page, Haley Hastings, Robin Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Tough Bayfong, Moo Productions, Don't Call Me Nymphadora, Olivia Y, Craig McRoberts, Griffin Dork, Taylor Payne, Giselle Salvador, Minka Dreesen, Can't I See We Brain, Matt Barger, Peter Johnson the Twin, Sabrina Balsiger, Mooney B, Boney Pony, Harlan Christ, Heather McMillan, Casey Canales, Polly Burridge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Bridget Lowry, Aidan Lippold, Josh Sayer, Percy Blue, Josh Wilkie, Martin Anvik, Abby Ryan, Josh Clements, Angela MF, Mary Baumgartner, Shannon Yvonne Aguilar, Wise Girl, Alpacas Are Hope, Finn TZ, Ribbon Monstrosity, Samantha McNamara, Tate Sasson, Emil Oskar Thomason, Roxas 1912, and Rafaela. And if you want to help the show out in a non-monetary way, spreading it via word of mouth is huge. Telling someone about it directly, posting about it on social media, all these things really help, and I would appreciate it very much if you decide to do any of those things. But above all else, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you listen to our next episode, and until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey everyone, it's me, ASMR Mike again. If you missed my introduction last episode, I'm adding a minute's worth of me speaking in this very relaxing ? Tone, because on certain podcasting apps, I've been running into errors where the last minute of the show is getting cut off. So for some people, rather than hear the credits, it just cuts to abrupt silence. So I'd been putting in some silence, or not even cuts to abrupt silence, the episode just ends. So I had been putting in silence to make sure this doesn't happen, but I figured some ASMR typey stuff could be more entertaining. I don't know if I'm going to be saying new things every single episode. Maybe I'll copy paste in something, or maybe the podcast apps will get their stuff together before long, and then I don't have to keep doing this. But in the meantime, we're here and we're family, just like we're at the Olive Garden. Don't ever go to the Olive Garden. It's a bad restaurant. They don't make good Italian food. There are much better options that you could go to with your family. Anyway, this is a PSA from me, ASMR Mike. I hope you've enjoyed, and thank you again for listening.